Okay. Welcome, everybody. Good evening or good afternoon, wherever you are. Let's see. We got 12 people on. I think that's okay. All right. So some of you might know me, some of you won't. I'm Frank White, aka Aurelius Sopax. I am an actual magician, real life sorcerer. Okay, I don't do card tricks or any of that stuff. I work with spirits. Okay, whatever you have as an image in your mind when it comes to sorcery, witchcraft, I do that. Okay. Now let me tell you something. I have been a sorcerer for a very long time. Okay, my training started when I was 13 years old, and one of my first teachers, he told me that, listen, Frank, you will not understand magic and the energy dynamics correctly unless you study yoga, at least to an extent. Okay, so a couple of years after that, I went a little bit into yoga. I have been practicing, on and off. I actually have a teacher, a private teacher that I go to twice a week. So I practice still on a regular basis, but I never became a master in that art. Okay. My school in which I teach witchcraft and which I teach this art of mine is called the Grail of the Serpent. And as always, I try to give as much value as I can. I try to give those people, as much training, teaching, and help in whatever field I can. And like I said, yoga is a crucial part if you want to understand the energy dynamics of the human body, if you want to understand the chakra system, if you want to understand the spirit world and the structure of the different spirit worlds. Yoga and the Vedas, and then whatever else comes into play there is crucial. So through IMC Nation, through a common friend, Rosh Zapardi Bazaar, I got to know Yogi Chris, and I discussed the idea with him to create a program on the Grail of the Serpent where he teaches my students and whoever else wants to be there how to do yoga correctly, how to do it in depth. Okay, and most of the guys on that program, they're probably going to want to use it to improve their magic, but even if they just want to improve their health, improve their state of mind, whatever it is, they're going to benefit from it. Right. So bottom line is this. I only want to work with the best, obviously, because I want to provide the best value to the world and whoever wants to study from me, right? And I've met Chris, I don't know how many times, 5, 6, 7 times in person, right? Yeah, and I tell you what it's like to be around Chris, right? You listen to a lecture or you do something, whatever it might be, and then you look around and you will see Yogi Chris doing some sort of an asana, moving around, putting his body into impossible positions. So I know for a fact, 100%, that this guy lives what he says. Okay, he lives the path, and also know that he's an honorable and a very knowledgeable guy, extremely intelligent. He's actually a PhD, bro. See that, right? So the bottom line is this. I've decided to offer this program. Yogi Chris gladly agreed. Okay. And today we're just going to talk about him, to get to know him, his philosophy, and I'm just going to chime in there and see how we can combine that with magic. Okay. So for those of you who don't know him yet, okay. So let me give you a couple of credentials to just give you an idea. Okay. So he's let me see. He founded Ninth Limb Yoga. That's his YouTube channel. You should all, of course, subscribe to that. He studied with a few Himalayan traditions and teachers from those arts, Hatha Yoga under living masters, and he's very well practiced. That's for sure. He's taught in dozens of states, and not just yoga, but actually an esoteric philosophy connected to that, therapy, breathing physiology combined with AZD IMC mindset, and now he runs base 1 temple, which is, I think, yeah, well, he's going to let us know what exactly that is. And he used to be a wrestler. Okay, with that being said, Chris, thanks for being on. Thank you for doing this. And I give it over to you. What's up?
For sure. There would have even been many more people on. I blasted it on the email and a lot of people responded to it, and not realizing until one of my girls messaged me and says the link doesn't work. So I messaged the wrong link to everybody. So they'll get the recording because I'll blast this on that, because everybody needs to know this. This is really, I'm looking forward to this because you're like a master of masters when it comes to what you do. And you helped me, you know, when my teacher Arash first mentioned you on the scene, because I knew Arash before he was AZD, he was just AD, 85E, like, you know, Arash Dibazar. And I saw that transition. I saw you enter the scene. And I heard him recommend work with Frank. And I had this, I know the reaction people have when they hear demon and demonology and spirits and this and that, because I had that, but I was also hella open-minded because of what I think of a lot of LSD. So I was just really not afraid, you could say, of that stuff, even though I felt it. And I don't know how fucking legit that is of a reason, but that was my reason for not fearing it. And I went into it and I did 2 sessions with you and it was eye-opening, and it wasn't my path, but it was like that's hella dope. Like, and it really tapped me in to some things that you have a language for. I don't even really have the language for it. And so I watched a few dozen of your lectures, and it was, you know, it equipped me with some fundamentals, I guess. I don't know. It was very helpful along my path because I've been studying with Arash and I live with Arash, and Arash is a living master of masters. He's a 1 in 10 billion guy. He's, as far as I'm aware, what I've heard either through you or through him about you or whatever, he's the best living embodiment of a demon pact. He's the epitome of that energy, that spiritual energy in such an accurate way that that's a, you know, most people wouldn't have the eyes to see that, but that's who I'm studying with. That's who I live with. I manage the temple, base 1 temple, where he lives. He's invited his top students to live. All of those top students are, by the way, guys that I pulled in to be students. So I was here just like half a generation right before that generation of Brian Casella and really Frank White coming in on this. He's just from the outside and became a contemporary of Arash, and is very inspiring. So I was very interested in doing this because I'm very interested in having in my mind like a catalog of yoga that's relevant to the occultist and, you know, those kinds of practitioners, left-hand path yoga, I'd call it, because that's not what I do, but I'm interested to know what of what I know is useful to that and to compartmentalize it and so on. So yeah, I was a wrestler, very physical guy, you know, just traditional white patriot background, and you know, got into drugs and then got into yoga. Yoga I used to wean myself off of drugs. And in that process, I mean, a lot of process, I you know, awakened things that I didn't know how to name them or describe them. There's a lot of confusion when you don't know how to name them or describe them. And so I practiced and practiced and practiced, like with the fervency of a wrestler that was training for a championship. For 5 years, I practiced yoga. Then I got teacher certified with my first guy and so on. And a couple years later is where I met Frank, Frank and I met. And I think it's from that practice that I have like insight on the physical of what I do. And so I'm looking forward to this collaboration to be guided in what I know that's useful for you guys. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So when we talk about magic and witchcraft, it's actually just energy work at a very high level, right? The worldview in magic is really that the physical world is just another density of the spiritual universe, right? So we got the level of thoughts, which is very subtle and flexible. And we got the level of emotions, which is a little bit more dense. And then we got the physical world, which is the densest form of energy, but you know, at the same time, it's just energy. So we can transfer one into the other. And the way to transform it is to use this this vessel that we have. The physical body is a very, very important part of this entire process, because us as spiritual beings, we're tapped into all kinds of different dimensions. We can experience the physical vessel and the physical world. But at the same time, we exist at the level of astral. That's what it's called in Hermetic terminology, right? The astral world, which is the world of emotions. And we got the world of thought. And we can bring one into the other to create the miracle of the one, right? So in a sense, that turns us into gods. Now, in order to have access to knowledge and consciously access all of those at the same time, we need a practice that opens us up, really, right? So the consciousness and the expansion of the consciousness requires an expansion and an opening of the body and the energy channels, right? So what I would like to ask you is how your physical practice has helped you open up to different, let's say, dimensions of thought, or how your physical practice really helps you integrate different mental concepts and transfer them and apply them in your physical existence.
For sure. And I'll say that one of the things that I quickly recognized in my personal practice, because it's a rare breed of person that just practices yoga at home alone in their silence for hours a day, day after day, month after month. A person doesn't do that. So I don't know past life, this or that or whatever. But in that process in the first few months, I recognized that the practice of breathing, stretching, and especially synchronizing your breathing with stretching, which has profound effects on blood pressure and lymph fluid movement, and and then of course your nervous system, is that without anything else other than just the stretching breathing system, you can work out faults in your psychology. You can integrate your all the systems of your body and then all of your mind ultimately. But the thing is that we're more mental creatures than physical creatures, and we've been conditioned so much from birth with lies. It's all lies. And so that process of reintegration is slow. It's slow coming if you don't have philosophy with it. But philosophy by itself, without the physicality, is also it creates a separation inside that is difficult to overcome. So what I think the physical did is make me very sensitive, not in the sense of like weakly oversensitive, although that can happen, but with the practice, you can sensitize, you may become too sensitive. But I became sensitive to tension inside when it would come, to relaxation, to blood flow, just physical reactions to my thoughts in a common everyday way. Only recently in the last year have I become dedicated with transcendental meditation. And, before that, I, as I do TM, have this legit, authentic lineage of technique. And, I can see how I was definitely meditating before TM. Like for sure, I was having meditation experiences with various visualizations, but literally just with the breathing, stretching system, it is a meditation. And so the TM by itself, though, there's so, you become like a statue sitting in the same position all the time. But you're not an equally balanced statue. You've been driving and texting and sitting in chairs and doing asymmetric movements and repetitive job movements and even just repetitive life movements. Like, do you brush your teeth with both hands? Do you use your knife with, that affects your thinking. And there's a tremendous benefit to wiping clean the internal habituation of the nervous system so that you then see disturbances like ripples on a pond much more easily. But again, without philosophy, that's a slow evolutional process. With the philosophy, like magic would be, I would think of philosophy because it's a science of the art of living. And that will really take you leaps and bounds, I think. So I think this collaboration is going to be huge for me too. As I hear you talk about like the emotions and the physical and the thoughts, just, man, I already know I'm going to grow through this process.
Yeah, exactly. And I think what you described there with something just staying a philosophy and being incomplete because of that, because it doesn't integrate emotions and body. That's what we find in contemporary occultism a lot, I mean, you will find the average occultist, the average person that is into magic, really using this as a mental exercise. Right? It's a lot of reading, it's a lot of study, it's a lot of terminology that is being thrown around, but it's really rarely actually practiced or put into practice. And my suspicion is that most people don't know how, and they don't understand the importance of the body in that whole process, and even their own role in that entire process, which is basically bringing the subtle into the physical through this vessel that we have here, right? So, so that's a very, very important process. So one of the ways, or one of the realizations that everybody has pretty much in witchcraft at one point, as you start trying these rituals, as you try to make it work, as you try to evoke your first spirit, as you try to make your first sigil work, the rituals that actually take effect in the physical world have a physical component to them. Okay, so they can't just be mental, they have to have a physiological shift as a component of it, right? Because I mean, it makes sense. If you want to cause a shift in the mental world, you use your mental body for that. If you want to see a physical shift, you have to cause a shift in the physical body. So absolutely, and I just want to emphasize that this is actually very, very important. That if you guys, and I'm going to put this in my YouTube channel, that it's all about witchcraft, right? So if you guys really want to make progress, you have to have a methodology to take a thought and and manipulate your physiology with, right? And I really want to emphasize that yoga has all kinds of different tools, all kinds of different methodologies to do exactly that. You go into the yoga practice, you become you are misaligned, you do whatever, but as you go through it and as you come out of it, you're going to change as a being, and you will no longer be the same person. So it is a wrong idea to believe in stasis. I mean, we're constantly changing, and magic is really about creating this internal change and then see the external change, right? What do you want to say?
I was having a visual while you were talking of like going on a road trip, and there's wear and tear on the car, and a magical ritual or some process being the trip, the journey, and there's the body goes through experience as you're going. And I was having another visual of like flying a plane, and to be able to read the buttons and dials and make adjustments while you're flying so that you safely get there and you're not stressing about getting there, and you don't arrive there imbalanced, needing a lot of work before you take your next trip. I was seeing that that's a natural thing of the machine. It doesn't stay in perfect balance. You're not going to throw the paper airplane and it stays perfectly level the whole way until it gets exactly. Very rarely does it. You know, there's stresses internally that happen, and to be able to seamlessly adjust the buttons and dials without losing focus on what you're doing, little posture corrections, little breaths, little relaxations come from awareness of that part of the body. So that was just, I wanted to say that because it was happening right when what you were saying. So I didn't know how to go back to when you were saying that thing. I had that visual.
Yeah. And more than anything, or I think what we also need to talk about here is, even though a lot of people might not believe it, but spirits are actually a real thing. Okay. Spirits are in the invisible. They're these little thought forms that attach themselves to you, and everything in the universe has an imperative, which is to survive. And you survive, or spirits survive, by feeding off of you. So if you ever experienced a thought that you couldn't get rid of, that was a thought form feeding off of your energy, right? If you ever went into an environment and your energy shifted and it stayed like that, that was most likely the spirit of the environment feeding off of you in some way or another, right? And this is not just a metaphor. Spirits are a real thing. They're intelligent, and they have, once again, their imperative or their agenda is just feed off of you to survive and to keep living. So from a practical standpoint, as a sorcerer, as a magician, number one, what people have to develop is awareness. Meditation is one of the biggest tools for that, but at the same time, you also need to develop an awareness and understanding of the different levels of self. Anybody who's ever done a little bit of yoga, you know, after your practice, you're in shavasana or whatever, you will start to feel your prana pulsating, right? You will feel this layer of energy around your body and within you. And then as you keep relaxing, as you keep just observing, you will feel yourself expanding, right? So you will literally take your awareness into these different levels of your energy body, which is crucial. And this is where the work begins as a magician. See, there are many different paths of spiritual development. Let's say, mysticism, which is you seek union with the divine, and then there's a religious path where you use devotion to a specific deity, to specific energies to find enlightenment. And then there's magic. And magic is the path of power. I know power and control and all of that has negative connotations, but understand correctly, it is actually one of the fastest paths to enlightenment, because now you're taking charge. You are determining when and how you're going to be confronted with the challenges. You're no longer waiting for the universe to provide you with that. And when you call a spirit into your life, when you call, let's say, an evocation, you call an archangel or a demon or whatever, you're calling a force of nature that you are now having to integrate. Whatever comes into your universe, you will have to integrate into your spiritual existence. Otherwise, you will break. Because if you're not able to be bigger than the experience, it will crush you. It will destroy you. So witchcraft is really a process of challenging yourself spiritually again and again and again and again, and going through that. Now, yoga is incredibly helpful with that because it allows you to become everything. You merge with everything. See, there was this experience where, in 2012, I used to work with the Catholic Order of Exorcists for almost a year. And it was one specific priest, and we would be called to these, cases of possession, real possession, right? And there were often moments where it was really, really hard to take control. I mean, the way you get a spirit or a demon to leave the person is you have to impose your will onto the spirit so that it leaves. And there are different deities or energies that you can attune yourself to, so you actually have the authority over that spirit. But more than anything, sometimes that energy was too strong, and it would take over, it would start taking you over, right? And you can feel it pulsating of the individual. So the only way to deal with that often was to grow or to expand even more, but completely letting go. And I mean, the terminology would probably be from the moving from the astral into the mental plane. So expanding yourself even more. And yoga would be incredibly helpful with that. It would be something where you can actually let go and merge with things. And oftentimes the way to deal with those spirits is to let your higher self take over. And what is the higher self? It's really just the universe moving through you. So my question for you will be, Chris, when you deal with life and when you deal with the challenges in your life, do you sometimes experience that yoga just brings you the answer, if that makes sense? So in your practice, just letting the universe flow through you, the answer just shows up or manifests itself?
Yeah, of course, for sure. And other activities do that too, like walking or driving. But there's something about, the yoga, it's just very integrating. And, the problem is a problem in the mind. It's not usually a problem in the outside unless it's some life-threatening thing. And so the solution is also in the mind, and we're being blocked from it, you could say, maybe through our channelized perspectives and our stagnation, our stagnant thoughts and stagnant blood flow. It's amazing when you start getting the blood flowing, the thoughts start flowing. It's amazing when the tension leaves the body, you realize you were holding a thought, and the thought flies away and disappears, vanishes. But you didn't see it because it was stuck to your face and you were wearing it. And then the tension lets go and you see it go. And then if you stay longer, another tension, what the fuck, another thing. And you're like, all this tension is like some thought on some level that's stuck to me. I'm stuck to it. It's stuck. I don't know. I'm holding that which doesn't serve me, all that stuff. But then when you get back into life, living, the tensions come back. A lot of the tensions are from the repetitive tasks. I'm like, engineering background and stuff. So working with the body and the physics of the body, biomechanics, they would call it, and kinesiology, whatever. it was just so fascinating to me. And it really, I could really go on a tangent with this stuff, but yeah, you know, for sure. Lots of beautiful thoughts. There was this old Himalayan video. This guy from Himalaya is really bearded. And especially when I got into pranayama. Now, I'm not going to teach, maybe I'll teach some breath work or something in this first month that we're doing. I'm not going to teach pranayama. Pranayama fucks people up. But I was the kind of guy that could do pranayama. So as I was doing it, I was really embodying this guy's experiences. He was talking about when you first start doing pranayama, what was he? He said, like, beautiful words come to you. Like after 10 minutes, beautiful words come to you. You'll start, if you haven't ever done pranayama, you'll start remembering words you didn't remember, you didn't know you knew. You'll spell them, you'll see them spelled out. It'll become bright in your mind, you know, and you'll remember memories that it's not so mystical. It's just, it was like you weren't accessing it. You start like flaring up all those neural connections with the proper breathing and breath holds and whatever. And then after a few days, you start having beautiful smells emanate from you. If you do it consistently, it's amazing. You start affecting your pheromones and things because it's all the physical activities are all happening. There's a thought right before it. There's some mental activity right before the physical activity happened. And as you practice the yoga and stay aware as you descend into your subconscious, because that's what breathing is. It's a subconscious thing. You'll naturally see other things that are also subconscious, like sweating, other thoughts, you know, your heart beating. You'll get a sense of controlling it a little bit. You'll get glimpses of it. The more you practice, you know, and in that you kind of descend below all of the fragmented thoughts of the day and the week and whatever. And you see it as a whole tapestry instead of each individual thought. And in that you'll see the, you'll see a pattern, or you'll see something that'll make more sense. You'll make more, your life will make more sense to you after a good yoga practice.
Yeah, nice. So could you give us a quick outline of what you're planning on doing with these yoga classes?
Oh yeah, well, and this is open to everybody. You know, Frank, you approached me with saying for your sorcery guys. I was very interested in the topic. I thought I'd open it up to everybody and see, you know, it can help everybody, an organization of this, you know, this kind of curriculum. Because I know my yoga is dope. Like I learned my original yoga from, I mean, I can't even really go into like all of that, but I've learned from guys that have over 4 decades of experience doing what they're doing, and in one case, like 7 decades of experience. He's old man. Well, actually 8 decades. 8 decades the guy's been practicing yoga. Like, so anyway, I forgot what I was saying. That. Let's see. Frank, I'll need to go back into our messages. This curriculum. So, and I'm interested in being kind of, you know, having my information channeled or guided, you know, what's most useful for you guys. So I set it up as a nine class thing. I figured there's going to be 9 classes in a month. We'll do twice a week, and there's like 4.5 weeks. I figured it'd be like 9 classes. So it wasn't necessarily because of ninth limb yoga, but it's kind of cool when it works out like that. So, you know, I've worked with a lot of people. I've worked with people that were near professional athletes to people that with spinal fusions, very old, scoliosis, even their heads run over by cars. And I've helped them. They've improved. I think because it's going to be kind of general, and there'll be a spectrum of people in the class, and even guys and girls in the class, baby, that going through kind of the basics of what's available and giving you the palette of what's available in your body and expanding your range a little bit in a safe way. That's also fun. And, you know, you want to be entertained by your yoga practice. You get bored. It shouldn't be a chore. You should look forward to it, like almost like a game or something. And if I teach you something in a class that's 45 minutes, it should be like maybe a 10 or 12-minute practice once you get it, you know? And so I was going to be teaching like all the joints of the body, circular movements. That's going to just trip you out. Your body's been so linearized, doing linear movements, whatever you're doing. Even if you're lifting weights, you're doing like linear, like there's not a lot of dynamism unless you're doing some of the funky new age kind of exercises. And so and even me as a yogi, when I learned these circular movement exercises, it just whoa, like even with yoga, it's so linearized. There's certain yoga traditions that have circular movements, and the danger in that is imbalance, that you can twist up the spine and create kind of twisted tension patterns. So I mean, I've learned, so I have both. So we go through like circular movements, some breath work and breath physiology, because a lot of your stagnation is going to be stagnant breathing. Sitting has paralyzed, or at least it's kind of paralyzed your diaphragm in your mind. It's numb in your mind. It's not really paralyzed. It's almost like you have amnesia of how to use your diaphragm. You forgot because of how you sit, because that's what sitting does. So we're gonna hack that. And opening your ribs, because one of the biggest problems with breathing practice is people give themselves anxiety because they raise their heart pressure when they start doing breathing because their chest is too tight. So it's like filling a basketball real tight. It gets a lot of pressure in there. Well, that's pressure on your heart, my friends. So we got to expand the rib cage so that there's more looseness in the thing. You can flare it open. So that'll be a whole class. Because you can also hurt your shoulders and neck or something trying to open your chest so strongly. Like there's ways to do it. All things like yin and yang. There's a way to relax that makes you stronger. There's a way to engage that relaxes you. I'll show you that. Unlocking the energy in your forearms and calves. That's pretty straightforward. That's what it's going to be. You'll be surprised. Some floor work and feeling your imagination. I mean, this was a crude curriculum. When we get to the floor, it's easier for me to give you visualizations. Like I said, I'm a student of Arash, and I mean, I don't have a demon pact, but I got a pact with Arash, and it's not like a blood pact or something. It's just a pact of my word and bond, my life. I've given my life to this in a way. I've surrendered to it, and I'm always with yoga. I am the yogi because that's a technology that I ride on, that I bring my communication to the masses with, and it becomes part of my avatar. And it's what I practice because I love it so much. If I didn't have Yogi Chris in my name, I'd still do yoga. If I didn't teach yoga, I'd still do yoga. That's why it took 5 years before I get certified. Most people, they get certified real fast. I didn't even want to get certified. It's just all the studios required it. So I did that. So when we get to the floor, I'm going to integrate some like AZD imagination tech. And you'll really, I mean, in our tech, in our school of what we do, you'll really feel the physiological changes in your body when like some of my silent flute girls, which I've mostly been teaching the silent flute to women lately. Men, I've been teaching business. We went through some visualizations lately that you feel the shift, and when you embody the shift and move forward, it changes your destiny. But you want to tune into this instrument called your physical body so that you catch when you're off vibe, right? Catch this language too. So, and then beginning to stretch nerves and mudras, like that's settling the nervous system and starting to tap into, ultimately in this discipline, what I would love to teach is something related to, they already hijacked the label. They call it neurolinguistics. They hijacked that label, but basically the neural language, or how, like the experience of language in the nervous system. I'm just fascinated by this, how different words create different feelings, guides your attention in different ways, transmitting ideas and whatever. So mudras are going to help get us into that level of mind. I'll show you the other end of the spectrum of the beast energy, that's survival energy. So that'll be more of a cardiovascular yoga practice that'll get your blood pumping, but I'll have you stimulate parts around your solar plexus that'll really trigger that energy, that survival energy. Because then you channel it. Like you don't want to run from it or fear it, but you need to be able to tap into it because life is too cushy. Let's get real. If you're on this stream, life is really fucking easy for you comparatively to animals in nature or even people in nature. So you're losing sense with your survival energy, which is your self-ownership, your pride in oneself, and responsibility for yourself. And so that survival energy is very important. That's what the beast is all about. Heart opening, in your pelvic floor, other ends of the chakra spectrum, solar plexus in the center and the heart a little above in the pelvic floor. We start to integrate, again, this is beginner intro. I'm not going to go too deep in a 45, 50-minute class, and it's only the first month. And if it's good and people like it, we could do more as deep as I can go. I'd love to take everybody, but I'm going, my mission is here with the base. So Frank has given me this excellent opportunity to make use of my information before I lose the language for it, because I practice a lot, but I don't teach a lot because I'm doing something else. And then the ninth lesson, if we get to it, it's good because I taught university for 7 years. I taught wrestling for 4 years before I taught yoga for whatever. And now I'm doing, it doesn't always go according to the syllabus, right? So by the ninth lesson, we might be far off of this. So, but I would love to get to integrating the spine because that's where all the action happens. But I think all this other stuff's important first. So that's the quick.
What do you think is a prerequisite for people to join these classes?
Well, it would be difficult if they were like in a wheelchair, I think. But assuming they have functioning arms and limbs, obviously the ability to have video. I don't need to necessarily see them, but they need to see me. So the streaming video or to watch the video recording, a home space, it's possible to do around people or noisy places. I use earplugs or even headphones all the time. But I mean, to get deep into, like someone was commenting, shavasana and relaxation, which is where a lot of the goods are in the yoga practice. You want to be in a safe space. That's like your private space that you can segment off and tell people, don't bother me for an hour while I do this. And
in that sense, private class or classes where people are by themselves could even be better, right? And,
do you mean like one-on-ones, or do you mean like
when people watch it online and do it in their own privacy?
You mean versus going to like a studio or some venue to do it?
Yeah, in terms of having more privacy and the ability to relax.
I think that's one of the things that's so special about me. Why I say it's so rare that somebody can practice at home for years on end without any really encouragement. My only encouragement was a little bit from the teachers I would visit once a year, because I was visiting them. I mean, I was paying, but most people go to the studio for that group environment, whatever, and that's fine. You can learn a lot of technique there. And I mean, certain places have great teachers, but it's the home practice that's going to relax you into, the energies around you. And it's also possible to get warped. If you just try to practice at home without guidance, you could get warped we have so many imprints that we're unaware of that we just will settle into a skewed way of living. And so it's important to tap into a lineage. And it's really cool if we have a group, because that family and tribal aspect is settling for the genetics, which is essential to really settle into the yoga experience, is to feel safe and as part of a group.
Yeah, exactly. You said something there which is very interesting. You're letting the energy flow, letting the energies communicate. Now, for Magick, it will be extremely important that that the people learn to pay attention to the energies, right? I mean, spiritual senses are active with everybody. They're just below the conscious awareness of most people. So it would be really, really helpful, because people want to learn Magick to kind of like cross that filter, if that makes sense, or to break through that filter where the subconscious or the energies picked up by the subconscious can actually come through into conscious awareness, right? And in what way do you think that's going to be part of the practice?
Oh, like I said, breathing is a subconscious activity that there are people in this world that will live and die and never have one conscious breath. They'll just inhale, exhale as an organism and never think inhale deeper or hold your breath. It's totally unconscious, but we can also make ourselves inhale. We can manipulate our breathing. We can hold our breath in an obscene way that would an animal would panic if it held its breath for like 3 seconds, except for mammals that dive, right? And when we start manipulating the breathing over a prolonged period, even just minutes, you take your conscious awareness deeper into subconscious, and you'll see things. It'll be like you're in an elevator, a glass elevator, descending down a fucking cave or something, and you start seeing cave art, and it starts going deeper, and it's older cave art. And as you're going down into the mind, you're seeing deeper, older parts of your mind that it was too in the dark, but you're descending in this glass elevator with a lantern, and it's brightening the things right next to it. So you start to see other mental activity that's adjacent to your awareness as you practice breathing, which is also part of breathing, stretching. And as you go down and up each day, down and up, down and up, down into your mind, back up to conscious, down in your mind, back up, you integrate the parts of your mind. So pretty soon you just have access to more and more depths. And that's kind of the deep, when we talk about like depth with the yoga experience, because what I don't want is something from the outside to trigger an unconscious part of me. That's where we see the master lose his mastery. His practice fell short. So, man, I could, and I think this program is also going to be a lot less of me talking and more of me doing. So I understand if I talk a lot about this stuff, but it's not going to be a lecture series as far as I know, right?
Definitely shouldn't be. Yeah, awesome. Okay, one more thing that I would like to talk about is the different awareness levels in the chakras, right? I mean, they stand for different levels of consciousness and different experiences that we have. How do you think that can be triggered? How do you think the chakras play a role in people's experience, and how the practice can actually, enhance their experience of life?
Yeah, I think the chakras is a excellent model for understanding what's going on. I think like any science, 1,000 or 5,000 years from now will probably invalidate much of how we talk about what we're perceiving. We'll have better language for it. And so it falls short of the truth, I think. But my understanding, or as the New Age spiritual people say, my understanding, is that very related to water and how our intellect and intelligence is kind of coded or imprinted on water, almost like a computer. The light of our consciousness projects out through our water body into a rainbow of colors, and these kind of are organized through the electromagnetic pathways through our body, which may or may not be nerves or some other kinds of things like nadis or whatever. And so we get these kind of like city centers of energy, almost like Atlantis. I see like this like kind of liquid crystal with information stored on it in these centers up through the spine, the main ones being the 7 main chakra. And there's many others. But these, like it's all in the mind. And so the mind can be distorted, have lies, have traumas and things like that. And so thoughts related to, let's say, sexuality may be more localized around the orange center of the sacrum. Thoughts related to interpersonal relationships or how you relate with objects, your relationships to things will be around, the green heart center. The, how you how you go for your ambitions and things, thoughts related to your goals in life and, your ego identity, who you are in this world, the meaning of you, be very solar center. And, thoughts related to like where you're going, your the plans for your future, your highest self, like what, how you see the movie of your life playing out, the plot, the characters, like this, the imaginings, they're going to be related to, your forehead. So these different elements, different thoughts have different, almost like, I would say, vibratory frequencies that resonate at different parts of this, water column, your spine. And so they kind of resonate in different chakra areas. As you do yoga, you'll cleanse the whole system, kind of like an etch-a-sketch. You kind of wipe it clean. So it's more easy to perceive things that come up. But it's kind of like if you erase like a dry erase board, like I have this, there would maybe be a little bit of permanent ink that just doesn't quite fully erase. Maybe the more elbow grease I put into it, I can finally get it like pure or whatever. So there's a residue of our mental thoughts and things that are in the chakra system. And without teaching too much about it, I think as you do yoga, it's a natural process. As you do yoga and you feel cleansing through the body, you'll have insight. You'll see internally colors. You'll see internally energies collect. It'll be an inner view that nobody has to really teach you. It'll happen. It'll open up. And now when you add some of the philosophy like I've given you, you'll notice that these thoughts, they vibrate at different areas in the body. They stimulate, they light up these areas, almost like light bulbs a little bit. And it's it's so fascinating. The chakra system is so fascinating. I measure my progress on the outside from how the world is responding to me and the outcomes of what I'm doing. And I look internally to shift my character to be aligned with what I'm going for. And it's a continual calibration throughout the day, day in and day out, and having a teacher that guides and gives new processes and staying in touch with the family of people that are doing that. And so the chakra system is not something I dive into. However, I'm in reverence of it because I've seen it, and I've seen it in a way that just drops my jaw and brings tears to my eyes. And that's what I have to say about it. Man, I feel like I went off on that. I think that I'm very interested because everybody's going to have unique openings happen inside of them that are checkpoints along the way of just, seeing yourself as more of a cosmic being, seeing yourself that you've been so patterned by your thoughts and life here in this narrow temperature range, in this narrow experience range of Earth, that you're much bigger than that. And you're infinitely bigger than that. And you'll come back to your life each day after Shavasana or after whatever our practice is, and you'll have to kind of re-upload like the Matrix, oh, I'm a human again. And that's very liberating. The chakras is one of those things that, like, it shows you that, whoa, I am much more than what they taught me. How did I go through 18 fucking years of school or whatever, 12 years of and I went 12 years and got a PhD, 24 years of school, and they never told me about chakras. WTF. It's one of those things.
Yeah, for sure. For the purpose of communicating with the universe, I mean, what a magician would do is they would kind of like objectify or personify and put a deific mask on a specific force and energy, right? And let's call that Ganesha, right? That would be one of those forces that we would call upon, invoke or evoke, which is basically calling into ourselves or calling in front of us and then communicating with that thing. But at the end of the day, we're causing internal changes to see external changes, right? So from your perspective and from your practice, what would be your concept of something like Ganesha? Is that something you invoke? Is that something that you have a communication with, a dialogue, or how does it work in your work?
I tell you that the language of that sort of stuff is a little bit foreign to me, and I've done a little bit with it, and also Arash has his ways of talking about it. And I would say that through the yoga practice, I became very sensitive to the experience of words. And I feel every word that you say as a separate meaning, a separate experience, each sound, really, each syllable. And of course, the qualities of your enunciation and the power and the clarity in your intention, the congruence in your intention, I feel those things. So when you talk about invoking an entity, Ganesha, I feel in my mind the experience of an entity, obstacle remover, invoking it, inviting it, and I'm reminded of some experiences I had in India, because it was right after I was working with you. It was very, very helpful. Frank tapped me into this spirit that was the daughter of the king of all humans, named Daksha, one of his daughters. You'll never find what his daughter's name is, but she helped me a lot in this process, because I was heavily learning from Vince Kelvin, who's an extreme pickup artist. And I came from the porn convention in Las Vegas and basically went straight to India to a yoga retreat from that. And it's like two different worlds, and I was struggling to integrate, and I just graduated a PhD. So I was like nerd way up in the books and the PDF files and whatever. And I was looking to become something else. And, so she helped, the spiritual entity helped guide me through things. And in that process, I became tapped into a dead Agora yoga teacher named Vimalananda. And the process of inviting some entity or some experience, invoking it internally, calling to it with sincerity, and letting it almost wash over you or attach in some way to you, and find a homeostasis with it without losing yourself in the process, and go. It's a little bit of a roller coaster, and listening and learning, but not dropping your responsibility, that you're responsible for whatever happens. I think I was just very open and sensitive to those experiences because of my yoga practice. The yoga practice itself didn't give me the language or those experiences. That's left-hand yoga, which is sorcery. And hatha yoga is right-hand yoga of, just surrender, really. And I'm not the surrendering kind of guy. I'm kind of a macho kind of guy, but we practice surrender experiment. Surrender experiment. So at the time I was becoming a very soft yoga kind of guy. That you all know, that soft yoga kind of guy, even though I was a wrestler and of a very different background. But you know, you do so much stretching and tension release, and don't go after enough challenges in life where you're trying to conquer something, and you just become soft. And but internally I was, you know, able to see and experience what you were saying clearly, cleanly. And I felt as if I had a technology, the hatha yoga, to wipe clean my nervous system readily in a way that made me stronger in every way and deepen my voice. Sometimes I would radiate, glow. People would confirm it. I wouldn't ask to be confirmed or validated. They would just say it. And, you know, along this path, you know, especially with the TM is the latest psychedelic experience. I trip out on yoga, but I don't do drugs. And, you know, we went to the TM certification, and the guy has been teaching TM, transcendental meditation, for 50 something years. So he's an older guy, and he lived with Mahesh Yogi. He's the guy who made TM famous, made it world name. And he lived with Maharishi for 3 years when he was younger. And when I did the initiation and I went there and he did his chanting in front of Jai Guru Dev and Maharishi, these pictures of the teacher and his teacher, got Jai Guru Dev. And, you know, I flower offerings, I brought the fruit and everything. And he's doing his chanting and I'm just kind of sitting there, eyes closed. And the scenery starts coming up from around me, and it's the jungle grows up and the walls change. And I hear the bells of the kind of Hindu church or whatever they call it. And the kids, I hear them running by, and I'm in India, man. I don't even know how it happened. I wasn't pretending. And it finishes. I felt Jai Gurudev there. His presence so strong. Almost as if I opened my eyes, he would be right there. Like it was as if you close your eyes, but you can tell the person's there. And you know, it's a 4-class series when you get TM, you know, initiated. And so we go back. On the 4th time, when he's confirming how I do it, he's just like watching me do the technique. He told me, he was like, Chris, I want to tell you that in 53 years of teaching TM, I've never had the experience when I was initiating you. I've never had the experience of thinking I'm initiating one of Jai Gurudev's students. Maharishi was Jai Gurudev's student, another one of Jai Gurudev's student. He said, in 53 years, I've never felt the experience of initiating another one of Jai Gurudev's students. And I think that's what we were experiencing that first day. And that was a trip.
Wow, that's awesome.
It's
yeah,
it feels good.
Yeah, beautiful experience. Now let's take a little bit back to occult practices such as let's say divination. Right? I mean, there are a lot of people that are fake psychics. You know, they just, you know, draw a card and tell you that you're kind and you're going to be lucky soon. But actual divination with the cards is you use the cards kind of like a surface, and then you project your mind into something, and the cards they mold and show you a different image than what was originally on there, right? Now, yoga, I believe, and I'm asking you to confirm, I believe would allow the mind to expand itself into not just deeper levels of the self, but at the same time, other people, if you will, right? Even non-locally, meaning like the person doesn't have to be here, but you can turn your attention towards that person. You will start feeling what's going on inside of them, basically measure other people, right? Is that correct? Did that expand your ability to do that?
Yes, and simply put, yes, I think so. I think that life is a trip, and the trip is very dependent on set and setting, I think, and how a person enters into their yoga practice and the control they have of their mind and their thoughts, or at least the awareness of what they're thinking about. They can come out of a yoga practice extremely angry if they were entertaining angry thoughts. They could come out very sad. They could come out bliss. They could come out dissociated. And I think if they were just practicing, they would eventually experience the whole palette of experiences of, you know, just basic. That's kind of what maturity in the practice is knowing these things. Then you start to learn intention is important, not in a in a airy fairy kind of way. It's important in a sense of you're going on a shamanic journey through this yoga practice, and you got to set your sails right and pack your lunch and check your rudder and make sure everything's right before you set sail. And but as far as like empathy or being like a clear vessel and being unpolluted by your own thoughts, your own ego in between you and someone else, and being able to see through their eyes and feel through their body, I know I have that ability, and I think that yoga removed blockages to that ability. So I would say, in my hypothesis, if I can test it, I don't know, that everybody has that ability. They just got blockages to that ability in their mind. Their mind is blocking them from viewing things from another person's view.
Yeah. So what is your
resolve that? Good yoga, good breathing and stretching properly, where it's not too intense, but just entertaining enough that it keeps micro adjusting your whole body. I think does that. It cleans away kind of like unconscious mental stuff. So you feel empathy, you feel people for sure. Yeah. So
what is your favorite way of manifesting? Do you have a favorite way of manifesting? Do you just pick a mantra and repeat it in your mind until it has an effect? Or is there, I mean, how do you manifest? How do you do that?
Well, it's very driven by inspiration. So I got to be inspired to want to do that, because it's a continual process of checking in with that goal throughout the day, almost not continuously, because that's not the right word, but as regularly as you can, eventually living that vibe, so the basics of seeing what I want. I'm a very visual kind of person, but I can also hear what I want, taste what I want, smell what I want, engaging the senses and what do you want, and, making it clear, feeling the outcome until you no longer feel it anymore, until it's just like kind of dissolved in the background. Like you've earned it. Now do your yoga practice and hold that vibe throughout the yoga stretches. And now you're going to shape your whole physical being to the vibe of your outcome manifested. And at a few points throughout that yoga process, because I tell you, you're in that deep back bend and you're kind of panicking a little on the inside, your heart's racing a little bit, even though you're not exerting yourself too much. But when you do that back bend, it's really touching on those nerves of survival. Like they make you feel like you're panicky. And right there, remind yourself of your intention and your goal outcome, relax into it, engage your senses, do the whole thing right there. As you get practiced at, your visualizations, you can upload the experience real fast. And little checkpoints throughout the practice, you align the inner system to that. And then in Shavasana, again, it's just a reminder. So I end up using the ritual of the yoga practice, I think, to orient all the cells of my being to that. And it helps me just kind of tap into each cell, because if I'm just sitting there thinking about it, I still have stagnation in my body. Those areas of my body, I may not be tapping those in. I may not be orienting those things. Like I need to develop my language on this thing, but that's what I think about it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, somebody commented here that would help invocation, I would imagine. Yeah, it would help so many different practices. I mean, especially in an evocation, I think one of the biggest barriers to actually manifesting the spirit is the fear that people experience. I mean, it is like when you do an actual evocation, the spirit comes, and it's first you feel the atmosphere change, the density of the energy around you, and then some shit might be falling around. And if it's like a creature from hell or something like that, which is like, I don't want to go too dark here, but if it is an actual demon, that's scary, that's terrifying. And what you just described would be perfect for that, because the exact same things are being triggered in a moment like that. And when you have learned and practiced to stay relaxed, even in a tense situation like that, that could definitely help you through the entire experience.
Yeah, they say continued yoga practice increases some of the gray matter in the brain where you tolerate pain. Basically, it increases the size of your brain, the pain center of your brain. Become more tolerant of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know what your schedule looks like, but I would like to open it up for a Q&A for at least 15 minutes. I mean, depending on how many questions we get, right? And are you cool with that?
Yeah, let's do that. It's a little over. So if you guys can, quickly formulate it, type it out,
Yeah.
raise your hand if you want to unmute.
Would be great if you raise your hand. Yeah, and I'll call you out. Okay, so Asmark, what's up?
I was just going to say really quick, the program, I think we're talking about it starting in January. Is that it?
Yes, it will start in January. We're going to do a couple more of these, right?
Yeah.
At least 2 or 3 to just introduce you to everybody. And yeah.
And if you guys are interested in just getting started, because I got lots of YouTube, I got so many on YouTube that I decided to organize it for everybody. So I have free Telegram groups. That's like a free app that I have groups, and I have my yoga videos in there organized for everybody. So if you're interested in getting started with some yoga, you can always just message me and I'll add you. I got a women's group and a guys group. All right, that was it.
All right. Okay, Asmark, what's up? Please unmute yourself.
Asmark, AZ, you're muted. There you go.
Oh, there we go. Thank you, brother Chris. I appreciate you for hooking up that link. I'm glad I'm here. Thank you for putting this together. And Master Frank White, I have a question for you. I'm on my path work. I'm an apprentice level in Aquaria. I'm not formally inducted into a current back alley exorcist, low levels like parasites, LBR, and vision work. I wanted to invoke Jinn for about a year as a warm-up before getting into a Goetian tradition and Solomonic stuff. Do I need to do any protection beforehand? Do you recommend that I do something like be able to travel into the abyss properly and get a guide before doing anything with Jinn? I know that's a little off topic, but I hope just to get a little insight. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, no problem at all. Can you hear me now? Okay. I would say the protection is almost a contradiction to the invocation, if you know what I mean. I mean, the whole point of the invocation is to let the spirit take over and then to act through you in the outside world, right? I mean, a path working done correctly should change something in the outside world, and it can't take an effect if it's not continuously evoked, at least over 7 days or something like that. It must be an expanded time horizon. But the protection that you gain, or the protection that you need to have, is you have to almost split your mind, where one part lets itself be taken over, but there's still this observer that can take over at all times. I mean, that's something that Chris talked about a little bit. It's basically the observer that needs to be there, and at the end, and the rest of your energy, you just let do whatever it does. You observe the thoughts, you observe your energy, you observe the manifestations in the outside world. And let me tell you, if you really go into a current like this, you will see the things described in the grimoire manifest as if, I mean, verbatim. Seriously, I mean, let's say they talk about ravens or dead birds falling from the sky in the book. You're going to have a dead bird in front of your house, stuff like that. And really, we're just applying quantum physics here. It's really the connection between consciousness and the outside world. And my experience with Jinn is, I do have some experience with them. And look, in my world, I think you can invoke any spirit, you can work with anyone. The only thing that you shouldn't do is mix the different pantheons, because what we're really entering is alternative reality tunnels, right? And I've had this woman that came to me for help, and the problem with witchcraft is people come to you when they're almost unhelpable, right? So they fuck shit up, and things go wrong, and then basically what she did is she invoked Jinn, and then to banish them, she worked with things that were completely unconnected, something, some Persian stuff, some ancient Mesopotamian stuff, right? So she invoked a different type of classes, different type of spirits. And of course, I mean, that energy internally is incompatible. So what happened in the outside world? Well, her daughter got sick and all kinds of weird stuff, right? So
she was trying to be a chaos magician?
Yeah, but chaos magic is actually based on, it's true that you can work with any system. But when you work with a system, you dive in deep and you stick with that. Just because we're chaos magicians, we can't just mix everything together. It doesn't work that way.
Yes, sir. And would you believe that the jinn are a softer version of Goetian? I'm obviously intimidated by the Goetian stuff. I'm not at that level, I don't believe. I just have some experience with removals of parasites, some LBR stuff, nothing heavy. Do you have any thoughts on that?
No, I mean, in my book, actually, the Goetia spirits are much easier to handle than the jinn. You know? And there's also less of an animosity between humans and Goetia spirits.
Wow. Okay. Maybe I need to rethink some things then.
I mean, at the end of the day, it all comes down to what's the word? And you know, if you've been using the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram, you already know that it's essentially your connection to the source or to the holy guardian angel, whatever you want to call that, right? As long as you can stay connected to this expanded state where you are the observer, untouched, you can deal with any spirit. And the only reason why you can call them in the first place is because you take on the role of the creator in that entire process, right? So as long as you can maintain that state of mind physiologically and mentally, you're fine. If not, they knock you off your center, and then the world around you is going to fuck with you as well.
Would it be better to evoke or invoke to begin with, if I may ask?
Sure. I always recommend that you start with invocation.
Oh, wow.
No,
Okay.
Sorry. My bad. You start with an evocation, okay?
Okay.
Knowing that evocation without invocation is actually not possible. So you will always bring them into you to an extent, right? So you go from an evocation, then you take charge of them, meaning you tell them what to do, which is the first step in making that power your own. Then you invoke. You basically let them show you these internal gateways on how to use their power. And then the last step is integrating that, making that your own. That would be the sequence.
Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate your time. I look forward to talking more with both of you guys. Thank you, and thank you, Master Chris.
And your name is AZ Mark? AZ Mark?
Yes, sir. Mark. I go Arizona Mark.
Okay, all right, got it.
Thank you, guys.
Frank, I got a question for you. What kind of yoga have you been doing, brother?
That's Hatha yoga.
Yeah, like what can you describe what he has you doing, or he or she has you doing?
Yeah, I always basically I come into the class and tell her what I want to work on. I mean, rather recently it's always been yin yoga. I don't know why, but I had the desire to do that, just to have it more static. I have certain weaknesses in my body that I want to work on, you know, something like, I don't know, tension in my shoulders that I want to get rid of. And she develops flows on the spot, or, you know, basically just tells me what to do in those moments. She guides me through the asanas, and it's a set of different flows that she lets me do.
Man, you could fall in love with your yoga teacher getting one-on-one lessons from a pretty girl.
Yeah, she's almost 50-plus-year-old woman. So, you know, I love her, but in a different way. I do love her, but not physically at all.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of your students fall in love with you, though.
Maybe. Yeah. You know, yoga has a way of just, you know, letting that inner beauty just shine. Yeah, they all fall in love with teachers. So I think it's necessary, really. Females got to fall in love with their teacher, because she's going to leave her teacher for whoever she falls in love with. So the only way to make it work is it's got to be kind of one and the same.
Yeah, I got a lot of love letters too, man. I guess that's the teacher role. I guess it's natural.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Anything else, everybody? I mean, we're pretty well. There we go. What's up, Carl?
Hey, how you doing, man? Hey, I just want to know, have you mastered, or do you do the Kachori Mudra?
Kachori Mudra.
Kachori Mudra, yeah.
Kachori Mudra.
I only ask because I've been practicing it for a while, and I'm working on eventually getting it without cutting my tongue.
Why? Why do you want to do it? what everybody, Kachori Mudra is you stretch your tongue. This is how it's written about. You stretch your tongue and cut your tongue slightly every day, pour goat's milk on it. And after 7 years, you can touch between your forehead with the tip of your tongue. And then
What
you go
about the
backwards
one,
up behind the uvula, and then you go up
Yeah.
and press behind the pituitary gland, and the excretion, the nectar of life will come down. You become enlightened and live forever. You'll never have to eat, and you'll be immortal. You'll never succumb to sickness, and you'll be super awesome.
Yeah, the reason I asked that is because obviously I can't get I'm asking you about it, so I can't get the tip all the way in the back yet, but it's getting closer. I have been able to cheat and kind of shove part of the tongue up there, and I got a little bit of a taste of
Wow.
the release at one point, but I kind of had to force it. So that's why I was like, it's a crazy experience.
Yeah, man. I mean, a lot of those spiritual experiences, like I said about the chakras, like it's awakening. It shows you the boundaries of your body, or where you thought the boundaries of your body were, which were just mental boundaries. Once you go past them, it was like, holy fuck. Like, it's just like in flexibility, you go in a double jointed way or whatever. You're like, oh, I can't do that. And it just expands your mind. Like, I didn't, because you had a certain part of your mind was the body part of your mind. And it's like the movement expands the body part of your mind. You're like, holy fuck, dude, I can. So, you know, the ninth limb of yoga, my brand, is all about communication and finding the yoga experience interwoven with the world instead of separate from the world. Everybody doing yoga is to find bliss, but then they can't interact with the world. So they're really separating themselves. It's kind of fucked up. But they're not acknowledging that. It's one thing to be separate and be like, hey, our tribe is better than yours, and it's like a competition here. But they're separate, not even knowing. They think they're united, but they're separate. And so to be able to communicate, I didn't find that Kachori Mudra helped me to communicate, with the exception of it loosens my palate. So when I take the tongue back and press it on the palate and hold that stretch for like 60 seconds, it's a good tongue warm up. It loosens the palate, opens the sinuses a bit, and it's kind of a dial, internal dial reset. But I never aimed to stretch the tongue and touch the third eye and go back. If I did it, it would be for alternate nostril breathing, so I could plug one nose from behind. I dated a girl once that could do it, and I tell you, it didn't make her a better person. She was good at certain things you could imagine, but it didn't make her a better person. And, you know, I've never met somebody personally that stretched the tongue all the way that could touch the third eye. She could just go behind the uvula and go up and press behind her sinuses, make her own nose run. Cool, man. Cool. So she when allergy season came, she could make her nose run. Like, cool. But can you make a man fall in love and protect you, take care of you? Like, do you know how to communicate? Can you raise a child, woman? Can you cook? Can you clean? What are you doing? I don't know. Teach me yoga, I guess. It was fascinating. And as far as guys being able to do that, again, like there's a lot of clairvoyant guys, and you know, when you tap in to the cosmic intelligence and you relax the mind and you see more of the subtle energies and you feel more of the subtle energies, and you also have proper language so that you accurately translate the energies into what you mean, and then communicate it well so other people get it. So now you're useful. You know, I forget where I was going with all that. Oh, the clairvoyant guys, like they're not able to do like those latter stages of like communicate, you know. I don't see them like in that way. They sometimes they're successful in business wise and they have a community of people, but there's nobody in that community that I'm looking up to as like as a character. And maybe that's just me, and I need a certain kind of character, but that's really, you know, following the practices. I don't know, Frank, do you teach Kachori Mudra?
No.
Yeah, so following the practices of whoever is teaching you, I think, is important, because I think you can really fuck up your nervous system, stretching your tongue and, you know, going behind and doing that stuff. And hopefully you don't swallow on your tongue and someone around you can give the Heimlich or something. And, you know, and once you start going up in there, haven't even studied the anatomy, like behind the forehead and pressing there. Like, I wonder, are you susceptible to infections or whatever? That would be things that you need to prepare yourself for, and find somebody that can do that can show you. I would definitely not practice Kachori. I mean, listen, guys, take a pair of tongs, stretch your tongue just a little bit each day, take a little razor blade, just cut a little bit underneath every day, then pour milk on it while you're stretching it. That's what they say to do anyway. Every day for 7 years, until, or however long it takes, and then learn to go back and go behind that little dangly thing and then go up. That's what he's talking about doing. You need to know somebody personally who does that and then learn from them.
Yeah, no doubt, man. I only asked because I had a guy that showed me he can do it. He showed me that, so he was showing me a longer way to do it without cutting it, though. Just kind of like the.
Well, where is he? Is he like your yoga teacher, or was he just some guy that could put his tongue behind his uvula, or not uvula?
He was like initiated into it through another teacher doing Kriya yoga, a certain set of Kriyas. It's just something that I looked into. I don't practice it all the time. I was just curious. Yeah.
I stretch the tongue a lot. I go back and press on the palate. There's an excretion that'll come down behind the throat, behind the sinuses. If you just press on the palate and hold it, and just starts to open up all of the channels in the system. When you practice mudra, how I learned, you really need a system of mudras. If you just practice the same mudra over and over and over again, you're affecting your nervous system in a very localized way. It would be like practicing root chakra opening over and over and over and over again, or practicing third eye opening over and over and over and over again, and not opening other things. Like the energies will be limited by the bottleneck in the system. And that's where you would blow a fuse also. And that physically may manifest as a pulled muscle or some slip joint or something. So you should be having mudras for the root chakra, Ashwini mudra. You should have all kinds of mudras for up the spine, and just make sure you stay in good communication with people. So that's how I'd recommend it.
I'm a big fan of the 80-20 rule. I believe that any practice, no matter what it is, has a certain set of exercises that everybody should do on a regular basis. And if you do that, you will have 80% of the benefits. Right? So if you would approach your practice with that mindset, what would be the 20% of practices that you would recommend? The basis to
You're saying what's the 20% of practices that get you 80% of the benefits?
Exactly. Yes.
Well, I mean, it's kind of boring, because it's going to be repetitive, right? I think just learning a basic sun salutation, that you can synchronize your breathing with the movements of it. It's like a burpee almost. So it's something you can really do over and over and over again. And it's depending on what kind of sun salute you learn, it could be pretty comprehensive for the body. And so you get a lot of the benefits of hatha yoga if you just learn a good sun salute and shavasana, sun salute shavasana. And then as far as breathing,
would that be one sun salute and doing savasana, and then once again?
No. I would do sun salute after sun salute after sun salute. Usually, depending on like systems, you could do 5 or 8 or whatever. I go on blood pressure. I feel my heart, my blood pressure. And as you do yoga day in and day out, you'd be able to equalize your blood pressure much faster. All the blood vessels, you have thousands and thousands of miles of blood vessels inside. They will learn to relax because there's tension and there's chronic tension in all your blood vessels. So you'll get blood blockages as you start doing yoga. You'll get blood rushes. You'll feel lightheaded sometimes. You get nauseous sometimes, just because you have so much stagnation in your body, and the channels for those fluids are not loose. They're kind of stiff, and to relax and dilate. And so the fluids move around. After you practice every day for, let's say, 7 or 14 days or so, things inside learn to relax faster. And so you'll find your flow state more readily. But in the beginning, you'll have less stamina for things.
Yeah.
And then, so 20% for the 80. Yeah, I don't know if I would agree with that for what I'm thinking about. I think there's just so much depth. Yeah, but I get the essence, I think, of what you're saying. I think the sun salute shavasana, and here's what I would say. More important than the sun salute, is more fundamental than the sun salute, is how to synchronize your breathing with your movement, so that when you expand your limbs, you inhale. When you collapse your spine, you exhale. Just to learn how to do that synchronization. Then you can do any movements, and you pump your blood breath system. You start you start like a hydraulic pump, you're pumping your blood, and that you'll see how that affects your consciousness. When you can separate the part of your consciousness that's affected by your blood flow, then you can see the rest of your consciousness that's not affected by your blood flow, and you become more clear on it instead of mistaking one for the other, which has problems. So I think just learning breath body synchronization and learning how to relax in Shavasana, how to be quiet, how to let thoughts go, how to adjust yourself so that you don't get uncomfortable. Like those two things alone will open up everything else.
So do you see yoga in relation to meditation? Do you see them as do you see the yoga practice as a meditation itself, or do you see the physical practice as a preparation for the mental meditation? Or
of course, both.
Both?
Yeah, of course, both. Very much. It's obvious that the stretching and aligning your spine and it helps you sit for a long time and meditate, and helps your attention span when you oxygenate your system. Because meditation is hypoventilating, so you underbreathe. And so the more oxygen you have in your system before you meditate, the longer your attention will be in that meditation. And you acidified in meditation. That's why you wake up and got to piss right away. It's uric acid. And meditation is one of the limbs of yoga. 8-limb path is kind of the Bible of Hatha yoga, the Ashtanga yoga system. And that the 9th limb comes as like what is the 9th limb? So there's 8 limbs. The 7th limb of the 8 limbs is meditation. So they've separated it as separate things, but they're all co-occurring. It's just separating helps to kind of understand it. And right, for example, I think when you really slip into meditation, you're right away into the 8th limb. Like as soon as you hit 7th limb, it goes right to 8th limb, samadhi. But it's like having the meditation as the goal. When you achieve it, it's like the Sonic the Hedgehog. If you ever played Sega Genesis and you have that like speed thing when you go over it and it speeds you up really fast, or like you ever played those race car video games or whatever, and you had like a little thing on the floor of the track, and as you go over it, it like sends you off. Like as soon as you hit that 7th limb meditation state, then you're like in samadhi. And so it's all co-occurring kind of. And the trying to make it something hinders it becoming that. It seems like trying to make the yoga a moving meditation, relaxing, allows it to become a kind of meditation. It might be more of a reflection. You end up reflecting on your ego or your identity or your body. You start reflect, but then it becomes a meditation when you see that you, like you had mentioned earlier, as a witness, are separate from what you're seeing, and you start seeing everything you're seeing from the inside. Not only are you're viewing the outside, you're viewing your mind from the inside. And the yoga, as per my definition through the Yoga Sutras of Ashtanga Yoga, is the identification with the seer, free and separate from the churning systems of the mind. That is the condition or the state of yoga. And then we see posture practice and whatever as yoga. People call that yoga, but yoga is the state of being identified with the seer and no longer identifying with the impermanent mind and seeing it as you, like you are your identity. That's why I say when you do like Shavasana, you dissolve into the background universe, and it's like you go out of your body. You just kind of, it's like pouring water on the floor. It doesn't hold its shape anymore. It just spreads. You just kind of spread into the universe in Shavasana. And then when you recollect, you come back and you're like, oh, I'm in this limited body that has boundaries. And, but you bring back some of that cosmic awareness, that cosmic perspective. Little problems make less of a problem. You turn mountains into molehills.
Okay. All right, then. I think that's it for today. I think we answered all questions unless there's something left.
That's it, man. I thank you for the opportunity. This was great. And all the listeners, it's great having you live. And so stay in touch. And I guess we'll see you next month. The program is far off. So, I mean, this is just to wet your whistle. So hit me up if you need some yoga practices, have any questions. I have some good
people find
videos
you?
on Mudra too. What's up?
Where can people find you?
Your Instagram, Yoga Bliss Chris. or Facebook. I mean, you probably have seen me around. So Facebook is Chris DeVilbiss. You would have seen me on Frank's post today. I commented. So yeah, those two places, or Telegram. Find a way to find me. Ask Wasi. I've known Wasi for years, Frank for years, and we're still young, guys. We're still young, fellas. Do you know that? Do you know that we're going to be doing streams when we're 80 and 90?
Yeah.
Then it's going to be holographic streams. We might even be projecting ourselves into people's minds. They'll just sit there. They don't have to go to the screen. But we're still going to be doing this stuff. We're babies in this shit, man.
Sure.
We're in the beginning. You guys are catching us on the up. We're going up. You get it? We're like, there's the mountaintop, and we're on the conveyor belt, or the fucking, what's the ski lift? We're on the ski lift. We just started. Hey, we're on the first checkpoint. Like, hop on if you want to come with us.
Exactly. So just to give people some context, the ones that came a little later, there's going to be a program on the Grail of the Serpent with Master Yogi Chris. He's going to teach yoga, and believe me, he's going to do a very, very, very great job doing that, and you can all benefit from it. But we're going to have a couple more of these Q&As and lectures. The program is going to start around January, and until then, stay tuned. Thanks, Chris, and thanks for everybody attending. Bye.
Yes, sir. Thanks, everybody. Namaste.